Hello, my name is Michael Finney. Today, I am joined by the author, Sam Robb. Would you like to say hello, sir?
Hello, everybody.
Now, we know each other. This isn't the first time that we've talked. Would you agree to that?
Yes, I definitely agree.
All right. Then let's start at the beginning of this conversation. Now that everybody knows that I know things about you, other people know things about you too. But we discovered we have this shared lineage to Pittsburgh. So tell us what your favorite ride is at Kennywood Park and why it is, in fact, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood at Idlewild.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood at Idlewild is awesome. I do love all the roller coasters. I have to admit, my all-time favorite, I think, is the Jackrabbit.
Okay. Classic.
It is so much fun to be on that thing.
It's a real nostalgia ride.
Oh, it is. It is. If you rode it when you were like 6, it sticks with you and it feels the same even today. It's awesome.
But also because it for listeners that don't know, it's also a wooden coaster that is meant to be like riding on a jackrabbit, if that has any meaning to you. Now while we're on coaster talk, we need to talk about what happened to the Steel Phantom in the redesign. I would say, what was that, like the late 90s, early 2000s when they redesigned it?
Yeah.
And they shaved off, like 10 or 15 miles per hour?
Yeah, that's
crime.
It was disappointing.
Major disappointment.
And some of the ones that they have that are more modern coasters seem to be more gimmicky, right? I'm not a huge roller coaster fan. I don't travel the country looking for roller coasters.
You didn't need to, though. You were spoiled with riches.
No, we had all the great ones here.
Yeah.
It really was. You grow up in Pittsburgh and you're like, oh, everybody has these awesome amusement parks with all these cool rides. No, but some of the later ones, Steel Phantom was awesome.
The original
Absolutely
Steel
amazing.
Phantom.
Yeah. And then they put in the Exterminator, which is one of those kind of like packed into a cube in the dark, zipping around, which is
I'm fine with it.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's a fun ride, but I'll ride it once and then go stand in line for the racer or the Jackrabbit over and over and over and over again.
Fair. So when in your upbringing around Pittsburgh did you begin to get into writing? How did that become an interest of yours?
I have been interested in it in writing since I was a kid. I think I wrote my first short story when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade. It was a lousy little short story, and but it was, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a try. I didn't really stick with it though, and I feel regretful for that. I did a lot of reading. My dad instilled in me a love of reading, and in particular, a love of genre fiction, science fiction, fantasy, thrillers, alternate history. He absolutely adored alternate history. And, as I grew up, I continued reading all this stuff. And occasionally I would write something. I'd be like, I have this image in my head or this scene in my head, or be inspired by a book, and I'd write something down in a blog or in a little notebook, and just like, oh, this would be cool. But my primary outlet for telling stories for the longest time was role playing games. It wasn't until I got into my late 40s that I thought, I'm running out of time. I hate to
No,
say it that
no.
way, but if I don't tell these stories, I'm not going to. So I need to figure out how do you make this work? And that was about the same time that I started reading Larry Correia, his Monster Hunter books, and found his blog. And one of his things that he talked about the business of writing was about treating it like a business and putting your butt in your chair and your hands on the keyboard and writing. So my wife actually she went away with the girls uh, for a trip for a couple of days. I thought this is great. This is my opportunity. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to put my butt in the chair and put my hands on the keyboard. And I wrote, I think it was 15,000, 20,000 words of a story that I wanted to tell. And
Over a weekend?
it was like 5 or 6 days.
Okay.
So it was a lot. They
Fair.
were gone for a
Sure.
long weekend. But it was, I just had a blast doing it. And like, okay, I can do this. I actually can do this. So that was the point where I started thinking, okay, I need to learn how to tell stories. And I read a little bit about, I picked up books like Orson Scott Card on his book on fiction, and reading some of the other authors that I like that talked about how they write and what they think about, and it's like a million different moving parts. But I'd been there before when I was starting to learn software development, and I had to kind of teach myself how all this stuff worked. And I'm like, okay, I know I can do this, and I know I can juggle all these things. So I just need to start practicing and figure it out. And eventually, I did.
Very cool. So when did you put out maybe your first piece that was, packaged and officially released?
That was a story called FedEx. And if you're familiar with role-playing games, especially online massively multiplayer role-playing games, they have something called a FedEx quest, right? Where your responsibility is to pick something up and take it somewhere or go fetch something. So it's a little bit of a hint as to what the story was about. It was a FedEx quest for a young lady in Pittsburgh, and that's actually set in the world of my urban fantasy book Sigils. It's the exact same world. Character kind of who's mentioned in Sigils, but that was published in a book called Supernatural Streets. And that was Rob Reed who pulled that together and edited that. And I think I probably owe Rob a tremendous debt of gratitude, because he not only showed me that I was able to write something that other people would like. Part of that was he introduced me to, through that anthology, so many other people that it's hard to imagine that how my life would have gone the way that it has if I hadn't been in that book.
When was that?
Oh, wow. That was 2001, I think.
Oh, wow.
Or no, 2000.
Okay. You've been at it for a while.
I think it was 2000. Yeah. And that's honestly something that I picked up and figured out really early, is that this is, when you're writing, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
You may have little sprints, but it's all about just plugging along and getting things done.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of people that you were reading or admired, looked up to, but it's been a little while since 2001. So maybe you give us a report of people that you were influenced by early on, and also maybe folks on the scene today that you like their work, or have enjoyed working with them as well. I suppose that would be a factor given some of your current roles.
Long-term influences. I love Clifford Simak. And I'm not, this is one of those things that you run into, as a reader. You're never quite sure how to pronounce somebody's name. I think maybe it's Simak. Maybe it's not. The guy who wrote Project Pope and Cemetery World and Macedonia, just these classic science fiction stories that were so very down to earth and pastoral. The Big Front Yard, just awesome. When I look back at my early reading, he was absolutely one of my favorites. I loved the way he told stories. Whenever anybody asks me what book would you recommend, there's a book by the name of Godstock by P.C. Hodgill, and that is another big influence on me. I read that a long time ago, and just the characters and the world building. I honestly go back to it frequently, and I think it's just an amazingly well done book, and in the fantasy genre. Getting into modern authors, I already mentioned Larry Correia. Big influence there. Pretty much, I think every modern urban fantasy writer is standing on the shoulders of folks like Jim Butcher and Terry Pratchett. Terry Pratchett is my wife and absolute favorite of my wife and I. I still have his last book, Shepherd's Crown, sitting on my shelf. I haven't read it because as long as I have not read it, I'm not done with Terry Pratchett. So sorry. That's that's a something that I'm looking forward to someday. Someday I'll finish reading my Pratchett. But let's see who else. Man, there are so many authors. I got into a writing group called the Alpha Mercs, and the number of people there that just write outstanding short fiction and are starting to really branch out into fantastic novels. T.C. Ross, a fellow by the name of Spearman Burke. I work with him at Raconteur, but his
heard of him.
His Team Calamitous stuff is like you could it is so cheesy you could slice it and put it on a piece of bread, but it is so awesome. David Batterina, his I'm trying to remember Bob Nog Canog. I can't remember the name of his book. Space Pew Pew.
Nobody should fault you for not being able to remember that necessarily, because I didn't. It took me a second to realize you were speaking English to me. So to be fair,
Space Pew Pew was awesome. Oh my goodness, I laughed so hard at that thing. And I think I find myself. I tend to either, as a writer, like really dark, really serious stuff, as a either to read or write, or just unbelievably silly stuff. So and if you can bridge the gap and talk about both of them at the same time, like Terry Pratchett used to, I will just absolutely love it. So
yeah, very cool. I feel like you're spoiled in riches with your finger on the pulse. you have the inside track at Raconteur, so you're able to kind of monitor writers, up and comers, and their trajectory, and also sort of maybe hunt out folks that you guys admire, out on the scene that it might be a good kind of synergistic relationship. I know you guys had just, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about this. You sent me a press release, I think. I think you guys did announce it already, right?
Yeah,
Officially.
we did. I think if you're talking about Bill,
yeah, I think so.
That's out there.
Yeah.
So, yes, we signed an agreement with Bill Willingham, the creator, Eisner Award-winning creator of the comic book Fables, and he is doing he has completed and handed off to us the 3 manuscripts for a epic sword and sorcery fantasy that we're going to be publishing with him.
Now, I know this is a little bit maybe too technical industry, but when you are able to secure a working relationship with an author like this, who maybe is looking for new opportunities themselves, and you guys are certainly achieving new opportunities for yourself. How does that work for somebody like him, who maybe has an established ecosystem for development and editing before it comes to you? Or, like you just said, he gave you 3 completed manuscripts. So, are those through a round of editing with like his team, or is that something where you guys are still providing editing as you kind of typically do with your established roster? I don't want to sit and like dig all this stuff up, and I know it's not technically what our conversation is about, but it is something that's interesting to me, and I feel like you kind of have a close view on that and might be able to even share some insight for folks that are listening, which I think is valuable.
I will say I do not know what Bill went through before he handed off his manuscripts to us. I have not talked to him about that. I haven't talked to anybody else about that. I will say that from everybody that's read through them, that they are clean. Right. They are good, solid stories. They are good, solid writing. They don't, there are certain books. My wife's an editor, and sometimes she'll read like the first 2 pages of something and be like, oh, I need to schedule more time for this. Right. So you get a feel for when something needs more work. And Bill's stuff is really, really good. Both in terms of story and both in terms of technical, craft and whatnot. We're still going to give it the same consideration that we do any other book, right? We're going to, sit down with it and look it over and give him back, some feedback on structure and, hey, this section right here wasn't clear. Do you think maybe you could punch it up? That's probably going to be very light because, like I said, he tells an amazing story. And then same thing with, we're going to do our pass for copy editing and line editing, because no matter how good you are, no matter how good your editors are, your first line editor might be, every time you look at a book or look at a story, you start to anticipate what's there, and that means you miss things that shouldn't be there. You either fill in things that are missing or skim over things that shouldn't be there, just in terms of grammar and language and whatnot. So having another set of eyes on it just means that, oh, okay, maybe our usual editing, we find 2 or 3 edits per page that we want to hand back to somebody. Maybe with Bill, we're only going to find 1 a page, but that's still going to improve it. So we're going to put that in there and make sure that we deliver the highest quality product that we can, especially for something this, something this awesome.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I, and this is, we talk news, right? Today, while we're recording today for this promotional session, we also just released this news thing, and I think that because there are so many developments and there are sort of this, would you admit, there's a groundswell of indie publishers kind of trying to find a way out there right now, that it's really important and valuable to share information and monitor the changes on these platforms, and to find a way to make the work successful in the face of, I don't want to say downward pressure from some of these systems, but it certainly seems like there's a constant change occurring out there, that whether it's financial or not, it's operational. It affects operations for sure. Whether you're a lone writer operating, or you are a publisher trying to, establish a stable and catalog. There's just so much happening. It's really important to stay on top of it.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like I already mentioned, right? I started my writing career by following blogs and paying attention to other writers, and then you start listening to some podcasts, and then you start paying attention to the fact that Amazon has their algorithms, and as soon as you figure out, like, oh, okay, so Amazon does things this way, then you realize that people start talking about how summertime's coming, and that's when Amazon changes all their algorithms and tests everything before before the end of year, and that means everything changes all the time, and you pay attention to all these things that are going on around you, and I will be honest, as an indie, that could be so overwhelming. There are so many authors out there that are successful at okay, I'm going to self-publish. I'm going to put my book out. I'm going to market my book. I'm going to sell my book. And it floors me, because I have a glimpse as to how much effort they're putting into all of that. And the writing, honestly, is a small part of it. One of the reasons why I mentioned working with Raconteur Press, I do PR for Raconteur Press, and one of the things that I honestly do is because I know what it's like as a writer to try and do that myself. I am trying to do the best that I can for our authors to promote them and get them out there and help them, get interviews and get on shows. Like yours, you've had a couple of our authors on. Rick Cutler was just on with you. Just so, because it's so overwhelming to try and learn all of that while you're also learning your craft. That even if I can even just make their journey a little bit easier and help them out a little bit, as the publisher, I really want to do that, because I feel like a lot of these guys, oh my goodness, the stories are incredible. Folks like J. Kenton Pierce, he's his first novel got A Kiss for Damocles got nominated for a Prometheus Award. He's a Prometheus Award finalist, alongside Dave Freer, who is also one of our authors for his book Storm Dragon. These are amazing authors with fantastic stories, and they're incredible storytellers, and they really deserve to have people listening to them and reading them, and anything I can do to help them along that road I think is fantastic. It makes me happy when they're happy.
are you finding that there is an ecosystem out there for indie authors and publishers to find promotional mechanisms, their channels for PR?
There is, again, it's difficult, and it's like walking on quicksand, because just when you think that you're stable, things shift underneath you, and Facebook changes their. Uh, I was just listening to a podcast, uh, novel marketing podcast, Thomas Umstattd Jr. Fantastic, fantastic podcast. But he was talking about some of the changes in social media over the years, and how uh, doing social media wrong now can actually not just not work, but it can actually hurt you, in the way that, for example, Facebook shares the connection graphs with Amazon. So Amazon, if you're not careful about who's giving you reviews, Amazon might look at them and say, oh, this guy is a friend of his on Facebook. It may be he asked him for a review and he never read the book. Even if he bought the book, it may be that this is maybe this is part of a scam that some group is running. So we'll delist his review. Um, Stupid things like that. And you understand why they're doing it. You understand why that's there, but it's the sort of thing that makes it incredibly hard to start building that audience for authors. So with Amazon, you do understand why they're doing it, and you understand why X makes the algorithm changes they do, and you do understand why TikTok does things the way they do. But a lot of these things that they do that do make sense make it hard for small presses, for indie authors, for self-published authors, to get out there, to get known. And some of these authors that are fantastic, they're they're just out there trying to find people to read their stuff. And if they can get read, think of Dungeon Crawler Carl, right? Once people do pick it up, they're like, man, this stuff is amazing. And word of mouth can help you. But, you're kind of fighting uphill. That's why I think, in honesty, small presses like Raconteur, like Selene, some of these other presses that are out there are really important to new authors. They're not necessarily like, oh yeah, my book is going to be a hit, but they're a way for you to kind of establish your base and your street cred, and work with other authors to start building your fan base and find your fans, so that you can grow and eventually get to the point where you don't really need to rely on the whims of social media to find you people.
Yeah. That's a tough battle to continually wage. And it's one that I think we have been fighting for probably 10 years, I think, right now, in really earnest ways. 15 years for some folks, and 20 for some veterans out there, going way back. But it is a necessary evil. I think that what we'll see, hopefully, I think we're seeing a lot of people pushing back against some of the algorithms and saying, like, why am I not seeing the people that I'm actually following? And I'm getting all of these ads. And it's like, sure, I think we recognize that we have to have some level of ads in our social media, social networking diet. But we also want to see the things that we signed up to see. And we don't want to necessarily get random stuff algorithmically served to us just because they're paying. I think that a lot of that creates fatigue and burnout on these networks. So let's move into your new book, talking about a sense of murder. Give us a sense of what this murder story is doing.
So this is essential. A Sense of Murder is essentially a magical buddy cop story. The setting is basically if you imagine a multiverse where there's an empire that crosses worlds, and it is fighting a long-running, essentially, eternal war against. This is, I'm a Christian. This is Christian fiction. The empire is on the side of God, and it is fighting the armies of Satan, and the accuser, as he is referred to in the book. But that's the backdrop for this. And then you've got this backwater world where an investigator, basically a circuit judge type, gets paired up with an Imperial Magi, and the Magi is out there to find the Imperial Seers have said, yes, there's someone out here who's a dangerous character. He's a truth teller. He's able to sense people's motives, and the circuit judge, the highwayman, who is exactly that person, goes, oh, well, yes, that would be dangerous. I will help you find him. So he has to hide his talent from this Magus as they're traveling, and figures it's just a matter of keeping it under covers until he's bored and wanders away. At which point they start finding dead children, and that is linked to a demon who is enslaved by a warlock. And then things go off the rails. Now he is joined at the hip with this Magus as a local investigator. While they are trying to track this man down, they get involved in imperial politics. There are ambassadors and pirates and prostitutes and paper sellers. Lots of P's now that I think about it. But all sorts of things, all sorts of shenanigans, people dying, people getting murdered, things going up in flames, people going up in flames, zombies, and an ending that I really enjoyed writing because it kind of brings everything to a climax for Kellen, our main character. So yeah. That's where it is. If you like strange kind of steampunkish alternate world, secondary world, magical mystery stories, maybe it'll be for you.
Interesting. Is it connected to any of your other material, or is this a standalone?
This is a standalone. There are two other stories set in this universe. The first one was called Bluest Sky, Blackest Sin. That was the finalist for the 2024 Canon High Caliber Awards, John Holmes came to me from Canon and asked me to write this story expand it into a novel for Selene. And then I wrote a story called Footprints in the Sand, which is about one of the secondary characters in A Sense of Murder, Nissa Nedham, and about her experience and how she ended up becoming part of the Black House, which is the house of seers in the Empire. So there's a little bit more out there, and I've got a second and probably a third novel in this series planned, because it's just too big of a story to let lie.
Nice. Yeah, it's good when you kind of discover new terrain and find out, that you can expand on the world, the characters, the offering for the readers. I think that is something, people like all sorts of things. A standalone book, really long books, a smattering of short stories, the connected or not. I don't know. There's readers for all kinds of stuff. I think that, you guys are exemplifying that, whether that is, a publisher or a collection of writers on a scene, folks that run together or kind of create opportunities together and things like that. I'm just a little guppy out in the world. I only have a couple of short stories. I don't have any novels out, so it's basically just, what I can manufacture and toss out there. I do my part here on these podcasts as best as I can, which I think is,
amazing. Actually, you do an amazing job.
It's a good way of being able to participate in stuff, the work of it, and this because you're doing it with me a lot. The back and forth, the kind of back channeling of information and getting all that stuff lined up, it is not automatic. And to make it all happen and coordinate all that information and then get the session recorded, I feel like we who are corralling the folks onto the microphone, making it really easy is important because they're giving us the thing to talk about for a period of time. You included here, here you are talking about the thing. And it's like, this is all bonus labor and effort and work that you have to go above and beyond. It's like, well, I wrote the whole book. Isn't that the work? And it's like, it's not. It's barely any of the work, in fact.
Although, the one topic that everybody loves to talk about is themselves.
Sure.
Right. So every author knows talking about your book can be a little awkward because you're trying to explain, like, I know I'm going to get off of this and John Holmes is going to listen to it. He's going to be like, Sam, you need to be able to explain your book in like one paragraph instead of rambling. So there's always improvements you can make, but this is fun. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy chatting with people and answering questions and talking about the Jackrabbit and talking about publishing and whatnot. You're the one who has to set up the times and find the times and set up the recordings and do all the editing and do all the posts and turn it into a podcast. And it's the exact same thing as someone writing a book, right? This for me is, when I'm done here, I'm done. I just log off and I'm like, yeah, I had a great talk with Michael. But the work for you is just beginning. You've got the raw material now. I've essentially handed over the manuscript. Now you're responsible for all that other stuff that a publisher does to make something sound good and look good and be appealing and to draw people in so that they'll read it or listen to it.
Well, let me be honest with you. I do very little post-production on these as it comes out.
That's our secret.
Yeah,
that's our secret.
I try to make it sound a little bit better, and I'll try to clean up overlap unless it's like camaraderie type of stuff, in which case, you got to leave that in. But for the most part, and people have messaged me about this, they like that it is a relatively raw recording, and it's not that you're getting some overproduced thing. I don't do any lead-in music. I don't do any kind of like wrap up, like, oh, we're at the end of the show. Here's like some music that you're not going to listen to, for 15 seconds to end this episode. Like, who cares? And as it is now, today, are there any things that we didn't talk about that are on your mind that you feel you need to express or that you must get out of your mind?
I have been, no. That's a lot, man. That's a heavy question.
Well, this doesn't have to be the last time. It's just for this time. You have to say everything you ever intend to say.
I guess the one thing that I'm going to say, I was actually just talking to another one of our Rec Press authors, Wally Waltner. He's got his second book in the Muses War series coming out. And we were chatting today about the similarities between A Sense of Murder and his book, which I think is Fugue of Fire. And in the fact that both of them are fundamentally, best way to put this, we are both writers who are Christian. And I say that because there's kind of like the idea that if you're a Christian writer, you are writing, my Amish boyfriend romances sort of thing. Nothing bad ever really happens, because that would be depicting evil and so on and so forth. Both of our books are pretty, they are good stories. We want them to be really good stories, but at least for me in particular, with A Sense of Murder, I want it to be very steeped in Christian ethos. My characters talk, matter-of-factly about prayer. There's, after encountering a demon for the first time and having it nearly, kill his friend and companion, and nearly kill him, only escaping at the very last minute. Kellen, my main character, finds himself having PTSD. Right, that's a horrible situation that he just went through, and the Magi that he's with, Prospero, basically says, are you praying? You should spend more time in prayer before you go to bed and in the morning. Get yourself grounded, get your mind straight, focus on the things that matter, as opposed to these experiences that are haunting you. Later on, he finds a monk who's kind of a spiritual advisor to him. There are instances where faith is very important to the characters, and provides them with a sense of, not just a sense of purpose, but a strength to go on and in difficult situations. And that was really important to me. I wanted to do a story where Christianity and faith was not just a window dressing, and not just something for when everything was going well, where it was indeed, where it was your armor, where it was your protection, where it was your bulwark and the rock that my characters would stand on. And I wanted to do it without being preachy, without making someone think that, I've got a sermon being delivered to me. I hope that I accomplished that. So for all you people out there who think that Christian stories should never have any mention of evil, you should go read my book, because it'll give you something to be angry about. For people who want something with a little teeth to it, fantasy with a little teeth to it, you can go read my book. And if you really don't care too much about Christianity at all, you think, for whatever reason, it's got a lot of action, adventure, and, like I said, flaming demon zombies. So go check it out.
Yeah, there's something for everybody. Sam, this has gone well, and I do appreciate you taking the time. And we'll talk again before too long, I assume.
Okay, I do have one more thing for you, though.
What?
One more thing.
All
Still
right.
recording?
Yeah.
Good. Very good. You've been listening to The Episodic with Michael Finney. Remember, like and subscribe.
Oh, man, you wrecked it now. It's all over. I'm going to put you on every episode, just like that.
As soon as you said that you don't have that, I'm like, I got to do that.
Oh, yeah. Well, You've started something that you can't get away from. I have you saying that and singing that for all time, so you never know what could end up happening with these audio recordings. Hey, man, be good. And last thing, I think actually what we didn't say is A Sense of Murder coming out on Selene Press. What day? Are pre-orders open already? I think this is kind of slated to come out once the book is actually on sale.
Okay, so the book's, as we're recording this, the book's up for pre-order. It's going to come out on May 17th. So hopefully by the time you hear this, you will be able to go to Amazon and buy it in electronic book or paperback format.
Fantastic. Hey, man, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, sir. You too.